Joining me tonight, Chief Political Correspondent at the Washington Examiner, Byron York, and Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. Great to have you with us, guys. Let's start, if we may, with the Trump agenda. Now we hear, Matt, that this thing is perhaps months delayed, that we're starting at square one. I hadn't seen square one. What's going on?
I keep hearing these worrywarts inside the White House who are worried about the judgment of the first 100 days. I think they just need to stop and breathe because they've forgotten how much they've accomplished. They've gotten more done with the president's authority than we've seen by any president recently. And today, you know, the swearing in of Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, I think a lot of people across the country, they just can't, they're not used to this kind of pace.
Yeah, well, and success. Byron, let me ask you this, though. Kevin Hassett, the president's choice to chair the Council of Economic Advisors, the competing National Economic Council headed by Gary Cohn. I mean, you've got outsourcers, offshorers, the establishment, and the elites in these two men alone.
Very heavily pro-immigration as well. So, you know, I think there's kind of a fundamental problem we're seeing now as Trump tries to staff up is that he didn't have enough loyalists to staff the core of the White House, much less the whole White House, much less the whole executive branch. And there are people coming on board who have fundamental disagreements with some of the things that the president campaigned on. Now, will they operate to enact the president's vision, or will it just result in confusion? We've yet to see that, but I'm not sure there's a lot of reason to be confident so far.
Well, I'm sure there's sufficient integrity amongst the staff of the White House. For example, Gary Cohn, Kevin Hassett. I'm sure that they would, if the president said, end outsourcing and offshoring and let's raise growth to 4%. I'm sure they would, with immediate dispatch, carry out his orders, right?
Well, I certainly hope if they could raise growth to 4% by just saying so, I'd like them to do it now.
Yeah, well, they would do so by ending the hemorrhaging through offshoring of investment dollars and plant and equipment, and stop the importation of cheap labor and raise wages in this country and start restoring the middle class. Let me assure you, that would be a good start. And, oh, by the way, fair trade, that would eliminate the annual cut in economic growth in this country that we've sustained for 40 consecutive years. And economists won't even talk about it. Matt?
Yeah, well, you know, let's have our eyes on the Trade Council inside the White House under Peter Navarro. Let's see, you know, if
he's been awfully quiet, hasn't he?
He's been very quiet, and I think there's a lot of very basic steps they could take. So maybe there's some internal battles. I think we got to keep our eyes on that. The other thing is, look, President Trump is a smart guy, and he knows why he became the president, and he's not going to let some senior advisors kind of bamboozle him over what the process is going forward. He knows who got him there, and he's going to be loyal to them. But I do think some of these staff decisions do make you scratch your head.
Scratch your head, indeed. Steve Bannon, the president apparently telling Steve Bannon and his son-in-law Jared Kushner to work it out, the antipathy between the two, a 36-year-old. You know, I'm going to be kind about this. This is a man with very little experience and with significantly wealthy friends who have been assisting him with the family money that he's had in business. I mean, we're not talking about the archangel of Einstein here, if I can collide there a bit with the religious metaphor. I mean, what in the world is this going on in this White House?
Well, look, I got to tell you, I'm a little baffled as well by this rise, by this increase in the size of the Jared Kushner portfolio. I think one of the things that maybe people didn't know enough about President Trump is that for all his business success, and he's been a very big success, gotten a lot of money, he's operated in a pretty small fashion with a pretty small inner circle. His brother, a few trusted aides.
Well, that's great. I mean, I've got no problem with that.
But it's hard to transfer that to the White House because generally at that level of staff level, you have people who worked in an early Republican White House who come in and know that, or you have somebody like Rex Tillerson.
Well, here's where
the
I
highest
am.
levels in the private sector.
I mean, Trump was brought in to be disruptive. And people from all sides, reportedly Gary Cohn, Priebus, all of the establishment figures in that White House or trying to smooth things out. It is a dynamic and a conflict that should be creative in result. It would be horrible if it's allowed to become something other than creative and productive. Matt, you get the last word.
Look, here's the deal. Presidents in their first terms, that first year means so much, Lou. It's where the currency is. And we've had a very good, productive 100 days. The president's got a time with the American people to demonstrate that he's going to keep them safe, and he's going to get this economy moving. And that's how he'll be judged. And the people that have around him that have to implement it are awfully important.
Very, very quickly, well, we got to go. Byron, Matt, we'll continue the conversation, I'm sure, through the remainder of the 200 days. Think about it. He's got almost a month left in that 100 days. All those people in national left-wing media trying to give him some sort of artificial deadline.